Alright guys, so today we are taking a look at Toys Easy Zhu Rong, the helicarrier transformer that they designed for their ship combiner. So they're working on like a naval sea vessel combiner, which is looking pretty sweet, and this is the right leg of that combiner. This guy is looking pretty awesome. He transforms into a helicarrier here that will allow helicopters to land on it, I suppose. It's a little bit different than an aircraft carrier. Which is a different one of the ones coming in the future. Alright, so this figure looks pretty awesome. He's got that whole mecha style head going on, feels kind of like a Gundam. He's got this massive War Machine style shoulder Gatling gun, looking pretty sweet. The color scheme is pretty nice with the grays and reds to feel like a seaborne vessel, and looking pretty nice. He's got that whole command tower chest. I really like the design and style that they got going on here. They don't have too many unnecessary details. A lot of the things are just necessary parts of a warship, which is really nice that they integrated that into the design quite well and didn't overcomplicate very many of the parts. Articulation wise, he's got excellent ball bearing there on the head, ability to look all over the place. His shoulders have a lot of things going on, so there's a joint here, there's a joint here, there's a joint somewhere else, so he can do quite a bit of lifting. He can get it pretty high up, lots of options to be able to twist in different ways. There's a twist up here, which is awesome. There's this going on, so we got lots of ways to get sweet poses here with the arms. The elbow itself is just a single joint elbow. It's not my favorite. I like double joints. I like it to be able to go a little bit higher, and it can't go any higher than that. So that was a little bit of a letdown, but there is, I think, a mechanism that you might be able to play around with in the transformation mode to be able to get a little bit further reach from those arms. Hand-wise, each finger is on its own joint, but not a ball joint, so it's just got the ability to bend in the middle and rotate down. No real way for it to separate. The thumb also can't raise up particularly far, so it's kind of stuck in that one position here. There's no bend in the middle of the thumb, so not the best articulation there from the fingers, but still better than a lot of figures. He's got some good posability, and he holds his weapons really well, and that's important. The other arm has all the same stuff, except this thing kind of gets in the way a little bit, so just be careful with that if you're playing around with this figure. Like that. We're going to just get rid of that for now. Alright, so he's got this that goes on, which I don't love. This thing doesn't actually have any way to anchor on, it doesn't seem like. It just kind of has to sit there, and so you have to get it positioned right and deal with it. Waist swivel, he does have that going on. So his waist can do a decent rotation here. The only issue is that he's got a bit of a backpack that can impact things, but he can spin all the way around, which is awesome. It's pretty tight, doesn't fall apart too badly, and can hold a lot of poses. His feet have a heel rotation, which won't help you too much, but it does have an ankle tilt that has a decent ankle range. That is nice. Up at the legs, we can get them all the way out. Yes, so we can go all the way out. We can go pretty far forward. We can get actually a straight forward kick, which is awesome. But I noticed on the back, even if we get this out of the way, the back doesn't go very far. There's a little bit of a design here in the leg mechanism, and it cannot go much further than that because this section here ends up hitting the top. That doesn't have a problem in the forward motion, but it does have a problem in the back, and that's just how they designed this part right here. This little metal thing restricts that. His knees do not have a knee twist. I have been disappointed with figures that don't have knee twist a little bit. I like to have a knee twist, but it's okay. It has a really good joint, very tight joint, and that's of course because it is also the combiner joint, and that combiner joint needs that strength. It works really good, but it is very tight to move around, so just got to be careful with that. The twisting and whatnot of this figure is pretty good, so we can get it in lots of different poses, and it is very balanced. I found this thing is not as much of a wobbly mess as a lot of bots that I've been playing around with are lately. This guy feels pretty solid. He's a chunky unit. He actually is quite heavy, and he is a pretty cool bot. So I am loving this thing. Recognizability score is 0 because this is a newly inspired Transformer, doesn't have a character that it's based off of. For design, I would actually give this thing a pretty high design. I think it's probably pretty close to 9, but it's on the upper side of 8, in my professional opinion, which is not particularly professional. This guy looks pretty cool, has lots of good details, lots of good design choices. There isn't a lot of poor design choices throughout the setup, so that is pretty great. Posability, I'm putting this thing at about a 7. It's missing the finger posability. It doesn't get that backward leg movement. It doesn't have a toe tilt to be able to get some of the toe movement that I like to have. And then a little bit bulkiness with this chest results in not being able to get all of the chest style poses going on because this thing gets in the way and flops around a little bit, so that loses it points there. But pretty darn good. I would definitely say it is near an 8 there in maybe a 7 in posability. For an arsenal, he has this big shield thing that's also his stand. So a little lever comes out there that's rotatable, and he can hold on to that. He's got this dual-ended energy blade he can swing around and slash at his opponents with. And he's got that shoulder-mounted Gatling gun that can go on both his shoulder, or it can be wielded in his arms with an attachment from one of his swords. Personally, I am really liking the figure. I think it comes together quite well, looks really nice. I like the idea of a bunch of battleships being a combiner, and so I am loving that. Let's check it out in its helicarrier mode and see how that works. So let's talk about ship mode. This thing is looking pretty awesome. They did an excellent job of just making it nice and tight. No robotic features sticking out at all. Just looks like a solid ship. There's all the paneling, which makes it obvious that it is likely not just a regular model helicarrier, but it definitely looks really good. Solid, tight. The command station looks great. We got all these little bits, like moving cranes. We got all our turrets all over the place. Some of the turrets move. You got the back ones that can rotate around, pointing in different directions. Some of the side ones don't. These ones are stable and cannot be moved, but it is what it is. Overall, looks really cool, really sharp. There's not a lot to say about it. It doesn't have any really complicated moving bits. It comes together nice and tightly. It sits pretty well on the stand. They designed this thing with these little notches that then the ship can sit on between its two little flipper things, go on there, and then you can put it at different angles to kind of get nice views of it while it's on your shelf. Looks pretty sweet and works really good. You can even have it tilted over if you really wanted to. The stand works quite well and is pretty sweet. So the ship mode, pretty cool. Next up, let's talk about the foot mode. All right, guys, so here we got it in its leg mode, foot mode, whatever you call it. It is looking pretty decent. A couple of things unpegged there. I'm not loving this thing going on the top of the foot, but we'll live with it, as that's how it's supposed to come. Overall, it is a pretty sweet looking combiner. It definitely gives the feel of that helicarrier there in the foot form, so it should look pretty sweet in comparison to the other ships. Got a couple of weird traits here. I'm not loving whatever that is supposed to be. These things are just a little bit loose there for seemingly no reason, and I didn't find a really good way to get them to peg together. But overall, it looked pretty cool. I like that they added a bit of a style, but it's still plain enough. It's not overly dramatized in any variety. Let's take a look at its articulation. So it's got a bend on the toe. I love toe bends. That gets you some really nice range of motion for any posing that we want to do. It does have an ankle tilt here. This mechanism here is the ankle tilt. It is a little bit tough to move, but it can get a pretty decent tilt. I think that's actually the orientation. Yeah, this is the right foot, so it has a better right tilt than it does a left tilt. Up at the knee, it's got a really solid knee. Oh, it is tough to move. So that knee section is going to be excellent at holding lots of poses. This thing feels solid. It does feel like a nice chunk here, and that is going to be excellent for combining into combine mode. Not too much kibble is fantastic. I am actually really liking this. Design-wise, I would say this thing is a nice 8 or 9 in the design scale. Looks pretty cool. Definitely feels like the ship part. Feels like a foot. They did a decent job. We got a combiner joint there on the top. Should be interesting how this combines into the pelvic unit, whatever the pelvic unit ends up being. I really like the scale of this thing, and I think this is just going to be a awesome combiner. Unlike other kind of foot style combiners that tend to be a little bit too chunky because of whatever form it was, couldn't really be elongated. Due to this one being a ship, it actually has the right proportions there for ship mode, so I am really liking that. Let me know what you guys think of Zhu Rong's combiner mode, or Zhu Rong in general. We got to look at all three modes. They are looking pretty sweet. This is a unique concept transformer, and I am digging it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we will catch you guys next time.